So we spoke with Dolan Dark about creating Vsauce memes, and he was talking about how and why he did that. And largely, I mean, there were a couple of reasons. One of which he felt like the audience all knew you, were familiar with Vsauce, but then also all liked you so that how did he describe it? So they knew that you weren't the butt of the joke, but it was kind of like an homage or like a tribute in a way to kind of play with all of the strange footage that you've captured over the years.
Yeah, it only works because everybody knows who you are, and there's no obvious thing. If you'd had some tragic screw-up or weird scenario or something like that, the joke would be built in. And so the absence of the joke kind of makes it the joke. It was really kind of a meta thing that he was explaining.
Because there's obviously no malicious intent behind it.
Yeah, zero.
So it comes across as funny because of everyone is kind of in on the joke together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the question is the joke on me or am I in on the joke? And I think writing that line so it's sort of unknown helps. As soon as I get too into, hey, this is funny, I love these memes about me, it becomes incredibly lame. They need to be out of my control. They need to be a project that everyone else gets to touch, but not me. And so in my videos, I will do things that are sort of meme food, but maybe I didn't mean it that way. There's always that sort of plausible deniability. Like in my video about which way down is, I show mass by pushing around balls, and I'm having to really slap this big ball. And that actually, I think, is a very nice, intuitive demonstration of mass, what it takes to accelerate and decelerate something. But I'm also slapping a ball, and there's these great, spanking noises that it makes. And it's kind of like, as you're watching, you're going, does Michael know how silly this looks? I mean, he must, but he's not ever winking and nodding towards it. So we get to do that as the viewer. We get to misinterpret it, but he's kind of allowing us to do that. He's making that possible.
There's a confidence in that, too, that you'll go ahead with something like that, knowing that, okay, if I slap these balls around, there's probably going to be an animation here that goes in a bit of a goofy direction, and being okay with that. Have you always been okay with that, or did you have to kind of develop a comfort with it?
Boy, I don't know. I mean, I guess I've always been comfortable with it, but the key is learning that people will get the joke, and those who don't get the joke will just think that I'm weird. But I'd rather be like a cult filmmaker than too mainstream and too palatable.
But I wonder if you didn't have that background as being, say, the bearded nun in Barely Political videos, if you would have the same confidence or reaction or have the same level of fun with it. I'm thinking of, there are a lot of people in the EDU space, right? That maybe they take themselves a little more seriously than, for instance, you do. And that doesn't lend itself well to memes. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think I see what you're saying. Like, if they take themselves really seriously, then creating memes about them could be seen as mean. And I think the bearded nun was always a part of me. I wouldn't have done it if it wasn't a part of my personality. So I think what's important is that I'm not just the bearded nun. And so it's also important for my content to be quite serious and adult, because that maturity is then undone by the goofiness. If you only had one or the other, then you couldn't be memed as easily. If I was just doing like professorial lectures, then it would seem mean to change what I've said, right? And to make memes about me. But if I was only ever joking and being silly, then making a meme would be like, well, there's already a joke, you need to make another joke. So instead, it's kind of this weird gray area that is much easier to mold and make into something new if you're a memer.